Hello and welcome to this tutorial. We are now looking at a new game, a room game, where you can have players and objects and different rooms to go between. Okay, so in this example today we are working towards creating our basic room, and you're going to have something like this with a player object. That's the thing we're working on today. Then over the next tutorial we're working at adding walls and creating our room and multiple rooms that we can go between. But this is the thing we're working on today, having a player object we can control using the arrow keys instead of the mouse like we have in previous videos. So let's get started. Okay, to start with you need to get the template code, which is in the link in the comments on link it on YouTube. Download that and open it up and it should look something like this. I've given you a very basic piece of code to get started with. You can see we import Pygames, we've got some colors here, our screen size, we've got some space ready to put something in, creating our window, we've got our basic loop here, and at the moment all it's doing is just creating a basic black room, something like that. Just a black room with nothing in it at the moment. Okay, and we are going to work on adding our player to the room so we can move and control them. Okay, so let's make a start. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is we're actually going to create a class for our player object. Now in previous times we had a block class and then created that into a player, but we're going to create a separate new class here just for the player in this case. So player class, we're going to go class, call it player, and it is going to be a sprite, so we're going to import the sprite classes that already exist in Pygame to use, because it's going to see a sprite at the end of the day. Okay. Within our player class, we then need some methods. Remember, the first method you always have in an object is the constructor. So we're going to create our constructor method. Okay. And we always do that by going def underscore underscore init, or initiation underscore underscore self, because remember it's referring to itself, and we're going to use two variables here, x and y, which is going to be the position that we're going to create the player object in. So two parameters that are being passed in. Okay. Then we're going to call the superclass of the sprites so it can inherit and use all the functions for a sprite object. So underscore init underscore bracket bracket. That is going to call in all of the initiation ones from the sprite superclass that we're inheriting. Okay, so it's got access to all the sprite functions and things we need. Okay, what do we do next? We're going to now set the height and the width of our new object. Okay, so self.image equals pygame.surface. Type this in and then I'll explain. 15 by 15. So what we're doing here, we're creating a new surface for the image of our player. Okay, which is going to be 15 by 15. Now these settings we can always change later on to make the player bigger or smaller, but we're just creating a new surface that we can draw onto. And we're just to start with, we're going to basically fill that surface with white. Now, white is a color that already exists here. Remember, okay, this is a constant I've created here for a color white that we can use. So that's why it's in capitals. I'm going to try and get into the habit of using constants in capital letters so we know they are constants and they don't change. That is a bit of a preset way of doing things that we're going to try and get into. Okay. Right, we've now got a new surface we can draw onto. Now we're going to set the position of it. Okay, we're going to go and we're going to make the top left corner the location of our sprite. You'll see what I mean by this in a second. Self.rect equals self.image.getRect. Oops, getRect, not gerrect, getRect. Okay. Just copy this down and I'll explain again. Self.rect.y equals y. So we're basically setting the corner settings of the sprite so we can use it and move it around. Okay, make the top left corner the position so we can access it and check it and things. And then finally, we're going to set the position speed of our thing to start with. Set speed. Now to start with, we don't want our player to be moving when it's created. So we're going to say self dot change, you'll see in a second, x equals 0. Self dot change y equals 0. So this change is going to be a function we're going to use in a second, okay, but we're just setting the speed to 0 to start with. Okay, so now we've got our class being created and our initiation or init to create the object. Okay, well, we're now going to have another method we're going to use. So make sure this is in line with the method here, and this method is going to be used to make the player move. So we're going to go def change speed self x y, so our xy values of our player so we can move it, and then we're going to self.change underscore x plus equals x. So we're going to have a value that's passed in, and we're going to change the x of the player by whatever values we've passed in. Now this is being done so we can actually vary the speed later on if we want to. So if you wanted to have some sort of power up or something like that to make the sprite go faster, we can change the speed, we can pass it in and do things to it. Okay, so that's the reason why we're doing it this way. This method is to change the speed of our sprite. Finally, we need an update method as we have in the past, def update, and this is going to update the position of the player sprite on the screen whenever the update method is called. So this is very important, otherwise your player won't move basically. So def update self, because we're talking about itself, self.rect.x plus equals self.change underscore x. So what that's going to do, it's going to update the player position by whatever the amount of speed movement it is for that object as it's moving when it's called. And we'll do the same thing for y, self.rect.y plus equals self.change underscore y. So this is going to be used to update the position, the x and the y position of our sprite whenever the change speed is used to move it. And this is going to be run later on by our arrow keys. So this is very important, so we can actually move them, update and left, right, depending on whatever the settings we are using. So this is our player class. We've got everything here. Check that you've got all these bits here. Make sure these methods are in line going down. Def init, def change sprite, and def update. Now, at the moment, we haven't actually used anything. So at the moment, absolutely nothing will happen if I run the game. We just have a black screen with nothing in it because we haven't actually run the player class at all. We've done nothing with it. We've just written the code in for it. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is actually start creating the sprites and using them in our game. So now we've created it here. I'm going to go down to later on in this. We've got a little gap here. We'll use this gap here, and we are going to create a list to hold the sprites, to hold all the sprites, like we have in the previous examples. Okay, so we're going to call it all sprites list, like we have in the previous ones, and that is going to be a sprite group. So we're basically making a group of sprites, and we're putting in a list that's going to hold all the sprites in our game, so we can manipulate and use them. Now we've got our list, we're now going to create our player object. How do we do that? Player equals player, which is our class, and I'm going to create it with the values 50-50. Now what's that doing? Player equals player 50-50. Now if you remember, if we go back up here, up to our player class, when it creates it, it's going to take an X and a Y position. So what I'm doing is I'm passing in the X and the Y position where it's going to create our player on the screen. So 50-50 is going to put it away from the edge of the screen, 50 from the top and 50 down within our room. So it's not going to be on the very edge. So you could put that 100 by 100, doesn't really matter as long as it's somewhere within the room. but later on you might want to change the spawn position of your player in the room, so it might be quite relevant later on. But at the moment, I've just put 50-50. Okay. Finally, now we've created our sprites for our player, we're going to add it to the list. So add player to sprite list. Okay, just like we've done in previous examples, we're going to go all sprite list, sprite list dot add, and then our player object. So that's going to add our player here to the all sprite list that we created up here. So it now exists in the list. Okay. So again, let's try running it now and see what happens. F5. At the moment, still nothing. So our player's been created, it's being added to a list, but it's not appearing in the room yet. So why is that? Well, at the moment, it might exist, but we haven't actually got anywhere to we have not done anything to actually put it in the room yet. So, and we've got no movement or anything yet. So the next thing I'm going to do, in our loop here, in our while loop, we need to draw the sprites onto the screen, because at the moment they're not being drawn. So we're going to draw the sprites on the screen by going all sprite list dot draw screen. This is going to draw our sprites onto the screen. Let's have a look now. And there we go. We've got our little sprite in the screen there, 50 by 50 position. We've created a size and he's there. At the moment though, arrow keys do nothing. We haven't actually controlled it and done it to move at all. Okay, so we've got our sprite being created in the room, but we can't move him. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some events in to move our sprite. Now you notice there's already an events thing here for event in pygame.get, so it's getting all the events. And we've done the quit event, so when you press escape, it exits the loop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some events to make it move. So we've got if already, so we're going to go down here and we're going to add our next event now, elif. Elif event dot event dot type equals, and we're going to check to see if the keyboard has been pressed down. Any key has been pressed down. So when you press a keyboard down, it's going to detect it now. So we're checking to see if any key down, pressing the key down events have been detected. If it does, we're going to check which key has been pressed. If event.key equals pygame k underscore right. So basically we're saying if the right arrow key has been pressed, we are then going to move the player. Player.change speed 3, 0. So what's that going to do? That is going to change the speed of going left in this one, X position, to 3, which is to the right. -3 would be to the left, but we were going to make it go to the right. Let's see what happens if we run that now. Whoops, I have not done a little thing on the end there. So rookie mistake, I left the colon off there. Make sure you've got colons at the end of these, because this is a elif selection statement. Run it, and here we go. Right, press the arrow key. Oh look, nothing's still hacking. So now what's actually happening is the sprite is actually technically moving, but it's not being redrawn within the room. The position is not being updated on the screen. Okay, remember we've got an update method in our player object, but at the moment it's not updating the new position on the screen. So this is very important now. To do that, we have got to go back to our code, and we are going to go down just underneath here where we've drawn our drawn sprites list here. We're going to run the just before it here. I'll give it in here. Sorry, no, just actually we'll put it in just before the screen gets filled to black, because it's important that we run it here. Okay, let's do this. So all sprite list dot update. So that is going to update the position of all the sprites by using the update method of each sprite. So at the moment we've only got the player sprite, but later on we can have other sprites like walls and enemies and things like that. So I'm running the update method of it here. Now let's run it. So now if I press the right key, oh look, it's going. Only problem is at the moment I can't stop it. So it is moving on the screen now. Okay, so make sure you've put this all sprite list update method in within our loop here. Okay, let's do the rest of these arrow keys. So we've got the key right. Let's see if we can do the left one. elif event.key equals pygame dot k left player dot change speed -3, which is going to make it go to the left. And be careful you're typing. I've left my there. And let's do up and down. elif event.key equals pygame. So we're going to go now key up, key underscore up. So this is for the up event. We're going to make it go up. Player dot change speed. So make it go up. We're going to leave the x and y value the same, 0, but we're going to do -3 to go up. And then finally elif event.key, guess what? .key down, player.change speed 0 and 3 to go down. So we've got up, down, left, right. Okay, let's try this now. Ready? Right, left, down, up. Now the only problem now, when I'm pressing right, I've got to press the left key to stop it moving again. And left, I've got to press right to stop it. So basically you've got to press the opposite direction to stop it moving. It's just free moving. As soon as I let it go, and if I keep pressing it, it goes mega speed as well, which is a problem. So the final thing is now we've got these, this is all about key down. So the final thing we're going to do is we're going to add events in to say what happens when you release the key, when you release it. Okay, to do that we are going to add another elif in here. So we've got if for the quit event, we've got elif for the key down event. Now we're going to do elif event dot type equals pygame dot key up. So when you release the key from the keyboard, when you release it. So what do we want to happen when you release the key? Well, we said when you press the key down, we're going to set the speed to 3, so it goes to the right. But when I release the key, I want to reverse that speed to stop it moving. So here's a little cheat here, okay, to save some time. I'm going to copy all of this code here. So not the key down one, but all the events under it. Copy. And just underneath here, I'm going to paste that. Make sure it's in line like that. However, to reverse it, all I need to do is flip these values. So instead of +3, guess what? -3. Instead of -3, +3. Instead of -3, +3. And instead of 3, -3. Or -3. So all I've done is I've reversed the values here, positive, minus to minus, and minus to positive, so that it will basically stop it and as soon as you release the key. Let's see if this is going to work. So here's my sprite. If I press right, holding down the right key, and as soon as I let go, it stops. Holding down the bottom down key, as soon as I let go, it stops. So now as soon as you release it, the value of the direction is reversed and it stops it. So I can move around, and as soon as I let go of the key, it works. Now at the moment we've got no walls, so I can actually go off the screen here. We're going to work on that in the next video. But you should have a player sprite that you can move around the room quite freely like this. Here's your first stage. Make sure you've got this working, and I will see you in the next tutorial when we're going to work on adding walls to our game. Good luck.